Okay, so very few things stir up our fight or flight stress response like parenting. But far from this being a reflection of inadequacy or some sort of evolutionary mistake, this does actually make perfect physiological sense. So from the moment that your child is born, or if you're a mum who carries their child biologically, then prenatally while you're pregnant, your brain changes itself. So it literally restructures itself in certain areas. And one of the key changes that occurs is an increase in vigilance and threat detection. And this makes perfect evolutionary sense, because if you're more highly attuned to potential threats in your environment, then you can respond quickly and keep your family safe. So great. However, we tend to live and parent in very different conditions to those that we were kind of hardwired to live and parent in from an evolutionary standpoint. There is a massive deficit in support, so, tribe or extended family and the village. Massive pressures on time and resources and financial worries and burdens, you name it. Plus, our overall baseline stress levels are already, just as a collective, quite a bit over the healthy, sustainable range on average, which means we're starting from quite a high alert, high stress state to begin with. And the result is that for many, if not the majority of people, we're doing this job, which is the most important job in the world, in my opinion, in a state of survival and burnout and stress, which can make things really challenging. So learning to manage your nervous system when you're triggered into a survival stress response while you're parenting is one of the greatest tools that you can have in your parenting arsenal. And that's both for yourself, because you deserve to not feel like your head is going to explode or like you're on the verge of a nervous breakdown, sort of, daily or hourly. But also for our kids, because the data is very strong on the correlation between parenting stress levels and the emotional and behavioural well-being of our kids. And I would hate for anyone to panic or feel worse about things by worrying about that connection between stress levels and, our kids' well-being, because stress is an inherent and deeply ingrained part of everyday life. We can't live in a bubble, and we shouldn't be trying to be perfect, because, perfect is a myth. But where there are areas that we can use practical tools to mitigate some of those effects and manage our stress levels when we're parenting, then the benefits are going to be really evident. So we all deserve to know how to do this. And it's very much my hope that the sort of hypnobirthing movement and trend spreads as soon as possible to hypnoparenting, managing stress and tension whilst you're parenting, and not just while you're giving birth. So the technique is the same as all applied relaxation. So we teach your nervous system how to relax, so how to shift out of its primal stress response and back into balance and homeostasis. And that's a state where you are calm and you're focused and all of your problem solving faculties are fully online, which they're not when you're in a stress response. And then we develop a cue or a trigger, which is a conditioned response. So it's like an association in the brain between this balanced state of homeostasis and relaxation and a trigger, which is a word or a phrase or image or symbol or gesture. So whenever you feel that stress response start to kick in because you're triggered, by the first sign of a tantrum or conflict, or I use it quite a lot at the end of a long day, when my fuse is maybe a little bit shorter. You can use your trigger and shift yourself into a state of calm. And when you do that, you're indicating to your nervous system that this is a challenging moment, but it is not life or death. You're safe, this is normal, and you can cope with this. When our kids are young, we act as an anchor for their nervous system. So when we feel more relaxed, not only does that massively affect our own experience and our feelings and our actions whilst we're parenting, but we're also modeling to them neurologically this state of equilibrium. So the benefits, not only to sort of your experience and behavior, but on theirs, can be a really big deal and quite a game changer. And for older kids, this kind of tool can really help the way you manage conflict in your family, and you can also, when they're a bit older, share with them what you're doing. You can explain, I'm experiencing an intense stress response, I'm going to give myself a moment and shift. And that's just an amazing skill, again, that you can model and share with them when they're a bit older. Teen stress in particular, it is at an unbelievable high at the moment. So your teens seeing you manage your nervous system like this, and at some suitable point perhaps sharing the skill with them, is going to be giving them a very powerful tool to go out there into the world with. And finally, of course, once you've got this kind of stress reduction technique in your pocket, you can use it in any situation that tends to trigger a stress response for you. So it's amazing for things like work stress, conflict, disagreements, anger management, social anxiety, so it's really just a win-win life strategy, which can have an amazing knock-on effect in other areas of life. So I hope that helps to explain the rationale behind the technique a little bit. And lastly, I'd quite like to add on that I am not saying this as someone who is a Zen or calm parent by nature, so from any sort of superior or judgmental position. I'm probably by nature one of the most stressy parents that I know. And I'm a fairly serious meditator, yogi, all of that. But this is the technique that has been a real game changer for me, and that's why I'm so particularly passionate about sharing it with other parents. So if any of this resonates, then please feel free to reach out with any questions, or hop over to the bookings page where you can book your free phone consultation, and I hope to see you soon.